Hey everyone, it's Lisa Mears here, and in today's video I'm going to be making a ghost shaker Halloween card. And I'm going to be using some products from Pretty Pink Posh to make my card. And for those of you that have been following me for a while now, you know how I love to make shaker cards. So I was super excited when I saw this product be released in their brand new Halloween release. And in case you missed the unboxing video of Pretty Pink Posh's Halloween release, I will link it at the top right corner of this video. So here's a look at the Ghost Shaker die set. It has a ghost outline and it is a stitched outline. So there is stitching around the ghost and there's an inside piece. There's also the eyes and the nose, and there is a word that says boo in a script font. So you can use this die set to make a shaker card, but you can also use it to make a ghost that's not a shaker. So if you're not into shakers, you still can use this die set to make a ghost that's not a shaker. And for my card today, I'm also going to be bringing in the brand new Mummy Wrap stencil. This stencil will make a background for your card that looks like a mummy wrap, and this stencil is so much fun for Halloween cards. So I'm going to have all of the products that I use in my video listed down in the description box today. So if you're interested in any of these products, please go down there and use those links. I always appreciate when you use my affiliate links because it does help support me. So I started out by using my wire cutters and cutting the die apart. You can see that there are two pieces to the ghost, and then I cut the eyes, the nose, and the word boo out of there. And I'm layering up the two ghost pieces, and I ran that through my die cutting machine using some white cardstock, and that gives me an outline and it also gives me an inside piece. So let me show you that again. I took the larger die and the smaller die, I layered them together, and then that gives me this outline, and you can see all of that stitching around it. That's going to give me the frame, which will allow me to use that to make my shaker card. I also took the larger ghost die with the stitching, and I die cut just a piece of white cardstock, and that's what that one looks like. That's going to be the piece that is underneath the frame of my ghost shaker. And then this smaller ghost die, it also cuts out a ghost. It's a little bit smaller than the larger one, and there's no stitching on this one. But if you wanted to and you didn't want to make this into a shaker, you can always use the larger die and die cut it out of a gray cardstock and then layer that solid smaller ghost on top of it, and you can have a ghost that's not a shaker. And then you can decorate that front with the two eyes and the nose. I'm not going to be using that gray shadow layer. Instead, I'm going to be taking the outline piece and I'm going to add some gray ink around the edges just to add a little bit of shadow to it. This is the Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide ink, but you can use any color gray ink. I like adding a little bit of gray to the white cardstock just to add the shadow. So traditionally, when you make a shaker card, you use double-sided adhesive foam and put it on the back of the outline piece to pop it up so that you can hold the shaker bits inside of that frame. But I ran out of foam. I didn't have any in my stash, so I'm going with another method. You've probably seen me do this in the past, where you just cut the frame out of cardstock multiple times and use that in place of the foam. So that's what I've done here. I did a little bit more die cutting by taking the outline piece and the inside piece, holding them together with some tape, running them through the die cut machine 6 more times. So I have a total of 7 of those outline pieces, and that's what I'm going to use in place of the foam. I also took that large ghost die and die cut a piece of acetate, and that's what you see here. So now I'm ready to put my shaker together. I'm going to take one of the 7 outline pieces, I'm going to put glue on the back, and I'm going to attach it to the acetate. And as you can see, it's going to fit perfectly on top of that acetate because it was cut with the same die. Next, I set the acetate piece aside, and I'm going to glue together all 6 of the remaining frames. So they'll just layer on top, one on top of another, and they'll layer perfectly because again they were cut with the same die. And after I glue the first two, I'll glue the third one, fourth one, fifth one, and sixth one until I have all of them glued together. So once I have all of them glued together, this is the part where I like to test to make sure they are tall enough. So I'm going to take the solid ghost piece and put it underneath the 6 ghost frames. And then I'm going to put one of the shaker pieces right inside. And I want to make sure that the top of the frame is extended beyond the top of the shaker piece. If for some reason the shaker piece is too thick, and it extends above the frame, you'll want to add more ghost frames to make it tall enough so that it is taller than the shaker pieces, because that's how you know that your shaker pieces have enough room to shake inside of your shaker element. And since my ghost frames were tall enough and I had plenty of room for my shaker pieces to shake inside of the shaker, I can go ahead and attach the acetate piece right to the top of the 6 layered ghost frames. So that's what I'm doing here. I just put glue on the back of the frame that had the acetate on it and attached it to the ghost outline frames. So after that dries, here's what I have. I have all 6 of those ghost outlines layered together, plus the acetate piece, and then the top layering ghost frame. So now I'm ready to add some shaker pieces. So the shaker pieces that I'm using are the Ghost Friends mix from Pretty Pink Posh. This is a new mix. It has some ghosts in it as well as, I believe there were some hearts in it. It's a black and white mix with some sprinkles as well. So I'm just layering that mix onto the solid ghost background. I don't want to put too much because I want to have plenty of room in there for them to shake around, and I also want to spread them out so they're not all in one place. And I also want to make sure that they're not at the very edge of the ghost die cut piece because I need to have room on the edge so that I can glue the frame to the solid piece. So here I'm putting some glue on the back side of the frame, and then I'm going to add it to the solid ghost die cut that has the shaker pieces on top. And that's how you make your ghost shaker. So that is my shaker element, and now I can add the eyes as well as the mouth. So there is a die that will die cut the eyes and the mouth, and I just die cut those with some black cardstock and then added those pieces directly to the acetate. And for my card today, in addition to the ghost shaker, I'm going to add a ghost that's not a shaker. So the centerpiece that came out of the dies when I had them layered together is what I'm using here for the ghost that's not the shaker. And I just added some gray ink to the edges, and I'm adding the eyes and the mouth. Now this ghost does not have the stitching, but of course if you wanted to use the larger die that had the stitching on it to make your second ghost, you can totally do that, but I chose not to. Next, I'm going to work on my background for my card. I used some pixie spray to add to the back of the mummy wrap stencil. You can see all of those thin lines on the stencil, so I just wanted to be sure when I add my inks that those lines didn't come up from the cardstock when I do some ink blending, and that pixie spray helps keep those lines of the stencil down onto the cardstock because it adds a light adhesive to the back of the stencil. So I'm using some Distress Oxide ink, and this ink is the Wilted Violet ink. It's a really pretty purple color that I'm adding onto my card background, and the paper that I'm using is the Bristol Smooth cardstock. I love using the Bristol Smooth cardstock when I'm doing some ink blending because it allows this Distress Oxide ink to go on so nicely onto the cardstock. My card background is measured at 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 inches. So I'm adding the Wilted Violet ink all over the entire background, and when I'm done I'll go ahead and remove that stencil. And then I'm going to add some of the dusty Concord ink around the edges. This ink is a little bit darker than the Wilted Violet, so it's just going to give the edges a little bit darker appearance. And then I'm going to come in over all of those white lines and add with a light hand some of that dusty Concord over those white lines. I wanted to make the edges a little bit darker, so I went ahead and took out my black Soot Distress Oxide ink and added those around the edges. So that just adds a little bit of black ink there around the edges for a little bit more of a darker appearance. And to add more interest to this background, I'm taking some of my black acrylic paint and just putting it there on my mat. And I'm going to spray that paint with some water and mix it with a paintbrush. That way I can thin out the consistency of that paint, and that will allow me to flick it onto the background. So once I have it into a much thinner consistency, I'll go ahead and take that paintbrush and I'll just flick it onto the background to add some paint splatters that are black to the background of my card. So once that background is fully dry, and it does dry pretty quick, I'm going to go ahead and put my card together. So I went ahead and laid out the ghosts how I want them. I'm going to have the ghost that's not the shaker layered underneath of the shaker ghost, and I'm going to add that ghost first to my card background, and then I'll add the shaker ghost right on top. And then the word boo, I die cut out of some black cardstock, and I added it there to the top right hand corner of my card. Once I finish that, I'll add this layer to an A2 size card background. So I do want to let you know that this card is part of a Pretty Pink Posh Instagram hop where you have a chance to win a gift certificate to the Pretty Pink Posh store. And if you want to participate in that Instagram hop, I'll have more details on my Instagram page at Lisa Mears Designs. So if you hop over to my Instagram and find this card, you'll be able to find out more information about that Instagram hop in that description. So once again, if you're interested in any of these products that I've used today, check the description box of this YouTube video for product links. And as always, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos like this, be sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn on your bell notifications so that you'll be notified when I release new videos. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a good day. Bye-bye.